Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. This episode is being recorded on 2/3/26. This is another Q&A, folks. Before we get started here, I now open this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time.
We are all one, and when one is helped, all are helped. Let genuine and organic unity lead the way, and it will always make us all stronger. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love us, let them nourish us, and let them bring us to our highest good. And we pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones to also let healing energies in. Let them love us and nourish us and bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda so that we may have this conversation in great peace. We ask for our perceived higher selves now in agreement to come in and remove any mischievous and malevolent beings that are around that are trying to distract this conversation. And we ask for other benevolent souls to come in again to be a part of this and us to have this conversation in peace with all malevolence and mischievous beings swept away so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. So, just for everybody's edification, before this was starting, there was for some reason back on this shelf you're seeing right in here. There's this whole day today there was something sitting back there throwing things at me most of the day. How it's getting past all my security is a complete mystery. So usually, rule of thumb, if something is just going through your security and shields like water, there is an entanglement and or alternate personality or alter doing it, letting it in, or it is a projection of self that is deflecting back at you and or elements of both. But in this case, sometimes something is just being an ass and trying to really push their boundaries. How they're getting into my sacred space, I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's something to ask during channel. With this, I actually will share screen for this first bit because most of the things on here are reacting to this video. So I will share. And now you see the script we're working with here. And I gotta put my glasses on here. There's only a little piece of this I'm going to use. So, right here.
Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am so glad you overlook a possible important element that might be being shared here. It'll all come together as I go through this, so bear with me here. Let's go to the image and take a look that caused so much chatter in alt media circles. Here it is. Embrace the penguin. Now take a minute and look at the image. Now people noticed that penguins are exclusive to the Antarctic, not to Greenland. So it's been thought that by some that this was a mistake. Actually, most Anons are embracing the possibility that what is being talked about here is that there is a very real connection between Greenland, which is nodded towards here with the Greenland flag in the background, or one that very closely resembles the Greenland flag, and the US flag. And so we got Greenland, we've got a penguin from Antarctica, and we have what is obviously President Trump walking with a penguin across a rather lonely expanse. Now, other Anons have said this talks about how you have to walk away from the herd as you wake up, which I think is also kind of true. And others have noticed the footsteps here. The penguin has 11 and 11, and President Trump has 9 and 11. So there's been some hypothesizing about what the 11/11 and 9/11 means. Most likely people are coming up with it. This includes Armistice Day, November 11th, alignments, 11/11, and 11/11 is also a portal type of energy number. Then we have the 9/11, which can often talk about hidden truths. And one of those, and then, never forget with the attack on 9/11. And it's often been theorized that the reason 9/11 was chosen for that horrible event in the United States was because that is actually truly the birthday of Jesus.
Of which I fervently disagree, because if you watch GIC, we went through the material on Galactic Interversal Consortium. Go there to find that material out, okay, because it is quite numerous. So I'm going to go back into the script, and also I forgot our first affirmation blessing. I do apologize, folks. So I completely skipped that this time. So I will read that, then I will go into the answer. I am sorry about that. Affirmation blessing. To be wrong most of the time, one must be right at least twice in a lifetime. And channeling a actor and host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. I didn't actually expect that one. That was back in December that took place. So the first of the channel here, or the first of this was by Thorsden. So I will read this. This actually means the portal connection and acquired resource between Greenland and Antarctica. This means that publicly acquiring one Trump/USA acquires both, when in fact the fact that they are talking about this even in symbolic form means that they have already and for some time now acquired it by at least 40 years. This means that they want public approval and consent for what is coming next. That is all I will say for now. Thorsden. Now, what he is referring to is, and I will briefly say this, the North American Coalition and the infancy thereof, or public recognition thereof. That is Canada, United States, Mexico, and obviously Greenland, also Venezuela. You see the acquiring of the resources there. Some of them, the military and them did it for altruistic reasons. The Cabal is doing it for resource acquisition. The same with Greenland and some of the bits of Atlantis that are there in both Antarctica and there, and Central America from also a lot of the ancient tech that's around. But at the same time, bringing together, where people in Canada may recognize this, Alberta becoming a sovereign territory from Canada and eventually becoming part of the United States, and then eventually our money system switching over to more of a cryptocurrency, Canadian dollar, decreasing in value, and then we acquire that territory. Mexico, that's already begun because of the blurring of the border that happened during the Biden administration. So that's the quickie version of the answer. But I also want to point out one thing, not bashing anybody. If you're identifying yourself as an Anon, I would highly recommend never doing that. You are essentially energetically linking your name to a cause you know not what the narrative and or scam is behind it. Yes, you are just wanting a more peaceful world and a more peaceful coexistence and unity, and that's what people generally mean by Anon, and also a truth seeker, revealer, disclosure, or whatever you want to call that. That's like saying Christ consciousness. You don't want to say, oh, that's Christ consciousness, or that. No, what you're referring to is the oversoul and the wisdom and enlightenment therein, and knowledge therein. You should not couple it with a man. You are then entangling with Enlil. You do not want to do that. Anon, you're entangling with a cabal organization that's basically changing its stripes. You don't want to do that. I figured I would just throw that out
But a lot of the qualities represented herein, of course you want to,
Mhm.
which is focus on the qualities of
Yeah.
what you're talking about, not
the names.
being attached to something specific with it.
Yeah, and you don't ever want to say you're an Anon or of a Christ consciousness. Those are no-nos, but you want the qualities that surround those. Just there is a distinction there, and there are spells surrounding both of those words. Please do not ever use them. I know a lot of people do in both the disclosure communities, revealer communities, / and religious groups. And so, and also Thorsden went on to continue, because the video went on to say that that people that were seeing some of the conspiracy theories surrounding it, it was poor research surrounding. Also, it is not poor research. It is completely genuine on the part of the people figuring out some of these things surrounding that symbolic picture. He says it is not poor research, it is completely genuine. Follow the numbers, the 1111 and 911 are leading people down a false religious pathway, meaning 9/11 being the true birth date of Jesus, quote unquote, and the 1111 linking it all to the 1111 synchronicity phenomenon, of which none of this is. All tricks designed to steer everyone off an independent pathway necessary for true first contact with us. Remember this, please. And he's actually right. We've said the 1111 synchronicity was the some of the false AI synchronicity coupling to the Messages for One and Messages for All episode that we did. If you want to go check that out, I can put the link in the descriptor. Also, number 9 in numerology is the completion of a cycle. 10 is starting new projects, and 11 is supposed to be the most divine number of all of them. Like Roddenberry said in the channel he did with us, none of these things apply. The 7s and 9s are cabal messages and cabal synchronicities. There's also false synchronicities, and I've even heard as of today, reading this, where people have been led astray by following just any old synchronicity. You must follow your intuition at all times. If it is telling you no, it is a no, regardless of what your eyes are seeing.
Well, I don't think people realize that because people, I think it's hard to wrap your mind around that we are all being bombarded by kind of like an AI to influence our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So believe me, you can be aimed at that makes you look at the clock and you're seeing that synchronicity. Those things are being put out there. So they're going to feel like real synchronicities.
Oh, yes.
But what you have to do is really be, I think, specific, like what we say sometimes, be really specific. I am not going to react to false synchronicities, and put out there that you only want the true one, because people don't want to believe that they themselves
Can be tricked.
Can be tricked. And I get it. But what we're saying is everyone is being bombarded. All the subliminal messaging that's going through all the forms of, IT, be it your TV or be it this, it's all out there. And yes, they actually do confuse people with this. And so no, that I know of, still no human being is beyond being tricked like that. So you have to have very strong intentions to not get entangled with certain things. And when you have that strong intention, then when you see it, you're going to find yourself taking a moment to discern what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and pretty much then what Chris is saying is you've got to listen to yourself, because there's going to be plenty of times that instead of you're going to do it and you're going to feel a little bit of a gut push, meaning that is telling you it's a false synchronicity. Mm-hmm. So this is where we have to really brush up our discernment skills and just accept. I would just say, please accept right now. No human is beyond being a part of all of us that are trying to be influenced by unseen forces, AI, and different things like that. So that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
We're just saying, put out there strongly what you want and take a moment to discern, because there's a lot of false synchronicities definitely trying to push what they now want is the new world religion, which is unfortunately Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of effort to get people to turn in that direction. And what was being said by Thorsten is that unfortunately, if you go down that pathway, it delays them. It delays them from being able, if people are so hung up of certain ideologies, then it will delay us being able to be out a little bit more into the cosmos. So just FYI.
And also, I like one of the things that was said earlier last week. It's compared to, everybody calls this the age of Aquarius, and I flipped it around and said, no, we are in the age of discernment. So I would just basically bypass anything you heard about whatever the new coming energies and age are in the age of Aquarius. This is the age of discernment, where you really have to decide whether that was a thing at all. And yes, there are new energies, and we shift timelines all the time according to frequency. None of that's changed. as far as I can see at the moment, at the time of this recording. If anything else pops up, I'll report it. But at the same time, you have to just deny the known and manifest differently. That's really all there is to it in this instance. And there was a section in that video, and I'll say something Thorsen said, that the commentator or the host there was basically saying that that she felt like in her tarot card read that President Trump was going through a spiritual growth period. Of this, I don't doubt that his avatar is, but Thorsen had a different take. He said, no spiritual growth here, only narrative, nothing more, I'm afraid. And yes, of course, there's a lot, a lot floating around out there about also how President Trump is speeding up some of the Kabbalist agenda to put it all on the table. Some people have argued, oh, that's because it's more altruistic than Kabbalistic. And I have to say it's from column A and column B, because at the same time, you remember us talking about the Kabbalah ascendancy and that ceremony with the envelopes with the supposed Q name, and it was really telling all the other Cabal families who was in ascendancy of the families, and that was Trump and the Rothschilds, and that's why Jeb Bush was distraught over that, because typical rich families are like, oh, for crying out, what really, so
Right,
yeah.
the death of Senior Bush ended there.
At the funeral, yeah, ended theirs, yeah, exactly.
And so the new ascendancy began, and then what you've been
because
seeing.
he was the previous ascendancy.
Right, so
yeah.
what, and in his line, and so what you really have to understand is that you truly do have a conflict of ideologies amongst it's not like the new ascendancy was going to follow what the old one was setting up.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, bickering between Democrat and Republican. They did not agree. So we're basically in a period right now of the new ascendancy asserting its dominance and requiring the capitulation of others. All of that also with contractual agreements that will come into play and are coming into play related to the 100-year disclosure narrative contract.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things are actually going on right now. I don't believe, personally, I actually don't believe that the current president knows much about the 100-year disclosure contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I really just don't believe that. I believe what we're actually seeing is, again, it just so happens that the ideology of that cabal group was more in alignment with acceptability to the 100-year disclosure contract. And that's why they're in the ascendancy.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the shenanigans that's been going on by the other groups is now coming to light, very painfully coming to light, that bigger problems are out there and that have to be looked at and have to be changed. But it is not a savior that's come here.
No.
Because even in their ideology, there is going to be some clashing with the contractual information, and the contractual information will win the day. So some of that is still going to happen even within this ascendancy. So
yes.
Right now you're just looking at something that's more in alignment, but there will still be clashing, believe me.
And now think of the two presidencies for a second. Think of how all of this meshes together. You had Trump, then Biden, and Trump. Well, you had Trump, and then eventually going on to where COVID started. You had Project Warp Speed. Warp Speed is speeding up narrative, fast forwarding all through all that mess, and with what happened, we all know what happened there. I don't need to repeat that. But what ends up happening as you get around to Biden? What is it? Fluid borders. They're trying to work towards more how Europe and Canada do things. They're trying to completely decimate the United States. Fast forward to when Trump comes back, another cabal family coming in, or his family coming in, to basically putting it more America first, then going more to strengthening our position, and still eventually going towards North American coalition. You notice that was the same thing with both families. He is speeding all of that up. And now, with the first time, with all that he did before, they retaliated against him with Mar-a-Lago and January 6th. So you know that's just call cabal
Yeah,
families
it's-
waving their wieners at each
Right,
other.
that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
And understanding that that's going on. But again, the ideology, again, you've heard it for many years. The only way to move from the old faction that was in charge, the only way to move some of their ideology forward was to completely obliterate especially the middle class in the United States.
Yeah.
And as
First
you
it was the
can-
workers, worker class, all that, yeah.
But
yeah.
no, and as you can see, some of that has occurred. People have been hurting and hurting bad. So
Merchants
again,
especially, merchants used to be considered royalty in antiquity. The cabal didn't want that to come around this time around.
well, again, so now what you're seeing again is an ideology that isn't as strong that has to occur. That there again another plan, another way. Although in the end, it still keeps the same small group of people in charge, and their goal is to have a false narrative of disclosure. It will not be the correct truth of history. It's still set out to be a false narrative, and the only way we're going to get more of a truthful narrative is for people to understand and demand that. So,
Exactly.
so anyway, so these are kind of it's a lot to take in to understand these different dynamics going on. But please, I only ask for you to consider. Take anybody off the pedestal. It is still the theater of puppets.
Oh, yeah.
And when we call them the theater of puppets, we're saying there are ones above you don't know that are controlling. And we stand by that statement, as well. And they're just doing what they've been groomed to do. I think a lot of people are understanding that people are groomed for positions and then put in positions, whether you think there was free elections or not, and people were put into positions, and that is still continuing. Although there is a more favorable to humanity, at least in the United States, rather than the hardness of what was happening before. So, but everyone's still got to push hard for the truth and to let what really is going on be seen.
Exactly. Can you read that next question?
Okay. It says, why and how are these tarot readers getting these reads? And from whom are they narrative only?
From whom?
From whom if they narrative
If they
only?
are narrative only,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. It is simple. It is V2K and entities favoring Donald Trump. All tarot follows only two premises. One, oversoul and guides messages to the tarot reader recipient. And two, V2K Tronverse entity narrative. And for Tronverse, go to Galactic Interpersonal Consortium for more information. Supportive of whomever is the recipient of the messages, and the card thrower, quote unquote. Nothing more complex than that simple truth. What he's basically saying are the two options: either you got spirit and guides, or you have V2K. That's essentially what you're getting there.
And we've spoke about it many times. We call it the muck layer. The muck layer that a lot of people, again, they are channeling. We're not even one iota saying that that's not occurring, but what are you channeling? And that there is a lot of deceptive information waiting there for people who can channel to pick up on.
Yeah, remember Age of Discernment, folks. So that's I love that phrase. I love how that came out. The Age of Discernment. So forget the Age of Aquarius. It's the Age of Discernment. So
But
just remember
again, if you're a channeler, demand that you are having benevolence for your highest good and basically work on getting through the muck layer.
that. And this next question was actually kind of funny. I can read that one.
Okay, did the brat actually lose his penis to Set? And did the witch actually rebuild a new one for him out of quartz or stone containing quartz?
Yeah, this was the Osiris Isis mythology. I heard this recently, and the brat, of course, is Osiris, and the witch Isis. I just wanted to point that out. And Set being the brother, which is usually considered to be Lucifer, like you see in the Mummy movies and everything, but it's actually Brat. So just saying. And that I debated whether Set was actually Enki or not. So that one's kind of up in the air still. But maybe that can be asked. Okay. Yes and no. He did lose it in battle with Enki Poseidon, which again, I guess believe that is just to answer the question, but grew it back because he can regenerate. That is all. And Loki slash the Brat slash whatever the hell name he wants to use these days, Satan, whatever. They can regenerate. It's molecular cellular solid. You're just inconveniencing him for a minute. Vampires can do this too. So okay.
And so can Bebop's.
And so can Deep Ops with their technologies. Just it's they what they do is they tap into the molecular cellular solid ability of the body, which is phantom limb syndrome. If you feel the limbs still there, and it's the energy. They even took a picture of a leaf where they x-rayed it. They cut a corner off of a leaf. They still saw the shape there. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. They even have in the Deep Ops, they have these octagonal looking rings that they can slide onto like an amputee stump basically and regrow the limb. They even have salve, like you see the caricature or satiric version in American Dad. They showed Stan getting his legs grown back with the baby legs thing. That with the salve, Roger gets from Area 51. That happens to be true. They got it from ETs. So that happens to be true. I always found that funny, but that's still a haha disclosure right there. So we can move on.
Okay. If all so-called past lives are indeed parallel and not always linear based, as is currently believed, then how is there a system of cause and effect, or what people perceive as karma?
Interesting. So this means one thing and one thing only. It just does not exist. At least not in the traditional version, anyhow. No cause and effect, but more of leeching and mirroring, and some lessons that need to be learned in this expression from another one. That is all. We did an episode about the weird and wacky oversoul. That applies to that topic right there. And this next question also applies to that topic. So I'll move this up.
Is this how one gets birthmark wounds in the current lifetime?
Yes, this falls under the mirroring and leeching and lessons that I mentioned before. Conflict resolution, quote unquote, is necessary to change time, but always from within the present moment in time. Here, now, changes the thens of history's marks. What that is basically rewriting on which frequency value you happen to be sitting in. You're changing your timelines as you're changing frequency value. Why can you not do that for a past life where you've done the shadow work of whatever's leaching through, or some trait that's leaching through you don't need in the here and now? Why can't that timeline automatically change? 99.99% of the time, I want to say, it is not necessary to know the past life nor to do the regression. And there's like this teeny 1% of them that you have to kind of go in depth and go, why do I think or feel this way? That's part of the shadow work. It could be your ancestor. It could be an ancestor that's tied into the past lives where you jumped around in the lineage, or it could be a past life where there is just something mirroring and causing a problem here. Those are the times where we have to work it out. And it's just like what I said in the previous show. Why do we have to work on all those dimensions and all this to make it part of our regiment where it's overloading us? I'll tell you why. It's not. It's not necessary at all. It's mostly the Oversoul's job, like I said, 99.99%. Then there's just some things that we end up having to deal with. And that's essentially what she was saying. But that's this teeny amount. So if somebody is telling you you were this famous person and all this stuff in a past life, Seers, can you please stop doing that? Because now if it's necessary for the shadow work premise where I rewrite past lives and I change the narrative, change it, and then it branches off into a branch timeline and changes the outcome. And I had this happen to a friend of mine where there was a ritual that somebody was going to do on her to change some misfortune, and it wasn't necessary because it changed the frequency by which the past life operated on, therefore changed the timeline by which other person was operating on. The other person was kind of peeved that they didn't get to do the thing, but oh well, that's life. But with this, this is part of that, where you're just it's a shifting of the timelines, like what we said in the Weird and Wacky Oversoul. So that actually was a great question. So
why is it us that needs to ultimately resolve these past history?
And like what I said before, shadow work takes many forms, but sometimes a past sends out so many mirrors that it inhabits the now in the now. and must be reconciled. That was more of a Spaceballs joke, and they're like, what am I looking at? The now, sir, and the now, that. So meaning that if it is mirroring in this moment, and again, doing exactly what I said, causing a bunch of problems that's within that sliver, you must reconcile it. But I can honestly say again, 99.99% of the time, it is not a thing. So if somebody is telling you that you must do this because you were this, take that either with a grain of salt or take it with that they're not in the same place you are. If your intuition is telling you something's up, trust that. So, and that you don't necessarily need that, and don't always go for things in the past unless your soul is drawing you towards something, either to fix it or if it's some kind of thing. And here's another aspect I forgot to mention: if it's something about that history that's supposed to be known now and that you're supposed to emulate here, because some people do that. Great. If that's part of your path, but also don't just, again, like I said in the weird and wacky oversoul, don't just connect to a figure and go, oh, that was me. You could be time slipping to somebody that wasn't you. And there's not 10,000 Jesuses, Michaels running around all over the place. There's not all of this. Why would you want to do this? I'm just throwing that out there. You are you now. That's all you need. So next question.
Is the current winter storm a weather control event? And if so, aimed at whom?
That's the one that was hitting both up towards the upper part of the country up by Massachusetts recently, with that nor'easter, and also the one down here, that one for Virginia Beach that people were spooked of. Today is 2/3/26, but this was the one that was a couple weeks before that. I believe was that last weekend?
Well, this past weekend too.
Yeah, that was
It
this past
two
weekend.
weekends in a row.
2 weekends in a row. Yeah. And it ended up being a nothing burger for us, but it was, but for other people, like in North Carolina, it was not a nothing burger. And up north, it was not a nothing burger. But this was her response to this. And so only one answer only one answer is correct for both questions, and that is people. To destroy, divide, and ultimately conquer and rule. Strip mining, destruction, then resource acquisition, land, money, power. I believe I made my point, Elena. So, and the other one previous to that was Vesa, and then Elena was the one. Vesa was before that, and Elena before that. So, and Vesa before that. So they've been switching off doing the answers to the questions here. But this is actually fascinating. But again, this has to do also during the weather control events of the hurricanes, resource acquisition from Helene and Milton that time, where it was in North Carolina, it was Ashland, North Carolina, or was it Ashland, Asheville? But I always get those two screwed up. Asheville, yeah. I always get those two screwed up because I see it constantly. But there was a story, and this was more than just some tale being spun, where there was a helicopter pilot that was going to pick up some people, help some people. He had a helicopter, he figured he'd help. He gathered an elderly couple one at a time, or the man in his helicopter, and left his co-pilot. He comes back, he's in one of those bubble helicopters that they use, that look like a deep sea diving apparatus. And he encounters this guy that has a weapon and an ID on him saying, I'm a U.S. government agent. You are forbidden from going into that zone. People just have to make their own way. I will arrest you if you try doing this. And he did the thing anyway. He from what I heard, one of his bodyguards held the agent while he went back for his co-pilot and the elderly man that were there, because he had rescued the woman. And so the woman was the witness to this whole thing. So this was them trying to access resources. The same goes with all the fires, all the burning, of everything. They're trying to get to the minerals underneath. The California fires, it was like what was said by the forest people, is all resource acquisition, folks. Venezuela, Greenland, again, resource acquisition. So I think you get the idea at this point. Piracy and or privateering. Privateering would mean they're hooked to somebody else, like the cabal. Piracy, they're doing it for themselves. So, next question.
Why is Nicolas Cage's future grave in New Orleans shaped like a pyramid? Contact with demigod?
Or contract with a demigod, yeah.
Sorry, contract with demigod.
Well, I suppose that's contact as well, but I get this is by Vesa again. Yes, and that demigod shall remain nameless at this moment in time, as will his reasons why he initiated the contract to begin with, by Vesa. Now, she didn't specify as whether when he says as will his reasons, was she referring to Nicolas Cage or the demigod? So she left that pretty much open. So I found that interesting. I'm thinking Nicolas Cage, but the thing of it is, the demigods have the reasons for initiating contracts, and so do these actors and actresses. I don't know about anything about Nicolas Cage. I just know the thing with the pyramid, that generally is some kind of Illuminati contract somewhere from Hollywood music industry, with all the things you heard us talk about, the Michael Jackson case and everything. It is a contract like Sony, any of those. They're signing a contract because it's not about the money, and it's about a religion. It's not. That's why you see them making obvious bypasses surrounding any sort of wealth in some areas. It's about what God they're serving. Whom are they serving? Who do they serve? So that when she said his reasons, she could have been referring to either one. That's where she didn't say. At this point in time, this is the Galactic Elemental Spirit contribution. They wanted me to basically add all that in. Normally we don't name names, but these were what came up. In the future, I mean, if something specific like that gravesite pops up, of course you're going to have to say the name because that's what's on it. But in the future, leave it slightly more generalized. And also, I review videos. I'm not going to play more than just that snippet, obviously. I'm not above, doing video reactions. I've been doing those both on GSC here and Trifold, Paranormal, Conspiracy Sector, all of those. I've been doing those. So people have been seeing me on Trifold every Friday doing that. That's not bad to do the reaction series stuff, as long as you're not bashing somebody, as long as you're not really basically just overly just laying it down.
You cannot agree and just state your thoughts about something.
Yeah, or if you agree with something, or if you're skeptical about somebody's activities, fine.
Just conversation.
Just conversation. Don't outright say, "Oh, this evil shit." Don't do that. No, that's wrong at that point, unless they actually are doing something that's really horrible. If it's something about Epstein or something like that, of course. But all right. Who is the channel for this evening? You're noticing I don't have those bright lights on this time. They were very blinding to me, so I couldn't put that on tonight. So hopefully people can see everything correctly when they see the video. So who is it? That's truly benevolent. Another conflicting agendas that is talking this evening. Lena Vessa Thorsden, because he was up recently. Who else, please? Come again? Ooh, somebody doesn't want this. Probably the same group of assholes that tried to prevent this. So, all right. All right. Oh, it's Elena? Okay, because you're right here, obviously. Oh, by the way, these hoods help immensely doing this. I noticed when I got used to this energy, works great. Even taking this off, it lasts. There's a residual that lasts for like an hour afterwards. But man, do you itch from it. I will say, guys, come with the woven silver. People that can't wear silver all the time, it itches. So just know that it's not you. But wonderful product nonetheless. So, Lena? I'm making sure that was still going. Okay. Yes, I know the theme for that Q&A or this Q&A was more about resource acquisition, as I said within your show with Audrey that time, about Venezuela and all of those the resource being acquired. This is also why you have different groups hoarding different finances and objects as well. It's innately in the genome. People also compulsively hoard for this reason too. Must hoard resources. Sometimes it is associated with emotions and PTSD, where the acquisitions reflect that of the PTSD the person's having, usually wartime. But sometimes it is related to that of the what's inbred into the genetics of acquiring goods for the gods. Sometimes collectors are that way. What are you collecting? Sometimes, of course, it's for fun, but sometimes, like say, people acquiring a lot of gold, for instance, was in line with the Anunnaki mythology, things of this nature. Even your Dutchman mine and your Apache holding on to the gold they're in. Who are they leaving it to? If they're using it for the tribe, great. But who else are they collecting it for? The same goes with your federal government. Who are they collecting it for? So that has to be asked at some point. There's also galactic trade, of course, they're using it. But who are they collecting these resources for? Themselves, yes. But also the same goes with some of the cultist ones. Who are they sacrificing to? And also people know the answer. That's Draco, that's Orion's, that's also some of these demigods, etc. Now, I want to focus more on that wonderful phrase he came up with, the age of discernment. Yes, that is very appropriate as well. So he's thinking if Trump can change it to the Gulf of America from the Gulf of Mexico, he can change the age of Aquarius to the age of discernment. I couldn't agree more. If you're bold enough to change a concept altogether, there's something to that. Either within, you want to leave a mark in history, which is perfectly fine, as long as it's not a bad one, or there is some narcissism involved. In all cases, in both these cases, it is the mark on history. So, and that you can. But there are cases where you need to ask, should you? But in this case, there is a rogue energy here. Quite annoying, somebody going boogie boogie in the face when you are trying to talk about something. Now, discernment is the most important right now than ever before. Even during the week of this recording, or the day of this recording, he was told, David Purcell told him that he had to watch. They were trying to go after the heart spaces to keep you out of the heart space. Yes. Please discern what is your own thoughts. You must do this. And what is that of daydreaming? That is what of us trying to talk. What is what is trying to lure you away from certain concepts, just like either false senses of urgency, like you said on your talk with Chris and Joanna, and that also false senses of urgency and true senses of urgency. That is incredibly prevalent now, even though you recorded that back in 21 and 22. It is incredibly prevalent, even more so now than it was then, even during the COVID timeframe. It is extremely prevalent now, especially with the lines on a map changing. I will not go completely into that concept. Excuse a minute. Rude. Very rude over that way. Now, I do believe Bob told you on the last recording there were consequences for that, yes? I would listen. So, you can nod back there all you want. Consequences, guys. In this case, it is cause and effect. Let's just put it that way, in a more judicial sort of way, or legality, or legal sort of way. So, I'm just going to go straight into questions.
Well, brings up a good point, if you don't mind talking about that, because it really is an interesting time frame. Let's just say these last few months, where the judicial system, the contractual agreements becoming, to terms with the contracts that are coming due, which I think is leading to the judicial system that is actually occurring, because the allowance of things on humanity has gone a bit too far.
Yes.
So
very much so.
So I find that I find this interesting because I don't think that Bob nor you are just spouting that to these folks
No.
out of no reason whatsoever. And especially as we've talked about recently, where even ourselves apparently had dream time as we were ourselves, let's just say in court, dealing with things.
Mhm.
So
I was there.
I think, yes, and you were there as well. So I guess what I'm curious about is, can you expand upon that just a little more to help people understand some of the things that are happening for the betterment of humanity behind the scenes that will lead to something tangible that they can see as a betterment for themselves?
Yes, from this legality, of course. What will, how can I say this without giving false hope either? That's just as bad as giving too much. A direct result of this taking place is, again, there's some lines on a map changing. We've discussed this, but beyond that, there are certain energies that are going to shift to the point where you will have a bit of an easier time with some of the attacking that's going on. You'll have a bit of an easier time. There'll be some financial thing that improves and shifts and changes. But also you'll have greater, this is actually the most important one. You'll have greater connections to family and familial bonds that are meant to be. If it's also meant to split, it will do so. The splitting of the densities. Well, and this doesn't necessarily mean blood family. This could be others as well, friends, all of this. You'll start to see a quicker expedited splitting of the densities and a quicker expedited unity of familial bonds. And also a greater disruption, unfortunately, of that process. Whether it blurs the lines, whether you should separate from something, or or become closer to something or someone, or both of those. It'll blur the lines between those two concepts. Road, stop. Final warning. Now, always from that direction. Remember, there's something off that way where they jack in the box out every now and again. So, with that said, that will be the thing that starts to change. That will be more of a definable change in someone's life.
So I guess when I think of what will people feel is they'll feel maybe less anxiety. I mean, because these times it's high anxiety. Everything being thrown at you energetically is there to cause confusion and high anxiety.
Mhm.
So I do feel, I guess I'm curious in the translation of what you're saying, that people, although they'll be easily able to see the chaos, it won't hurt as much. You won't be taking it in as much. You'll be
Yes.
able to maneuver through it
Yes.
because you can't, it's really hard to comprehend how much of those energies to cause anxiety and to get you confused is being literally aimed towards you to throw you off your game, to keep you unbalanced and this, that, and the other. And that there really is that requirement that some of this has to end.
Yes.
And I'm going to say it's human to human because a lot of it really is human to human.
Oh yeah, most of it is. And people like to blame it on aliens a lot, but most of it's human to human, or dimensional to human, things of this nature. But there really isn't much. There isn't much in the way of universal law, so to speak. It is more laws of nature and the ebb and flow of balance you see within the multiverse.
But that's what I'm saying, that ebb and flow that is more constant off Earth,
yes,
out there in the galaxy, there is a requirement that our energies balance to that level.
Yes.
So all of this, enhanced inhibitory type of energies are there to not allow that to naturally occur. And it has to be weaned off. And that's something that's being done, not necessarily as a personal human growth, but that really is some of the oppressive forces
Yes.
that have to be changed.
Yes, and here on Midgard, of course, the energy is slightly lower than other places. And I'm not saying it's not in other places in the galaxy. Of course, it's a fluctuation of all and everything everywhere in between. but also dimensional spaces. But is this improving? And also, does this have to do directly related to the soul trade, if you know it to be? Yes, it does. There are certain aspects of that, of course, that are changing, and there are certain things that are changing about it here. And this being the place being used as a central hub for finding a lot of this crap is actually coming to a close. So your work here, looking into the soul trade and the false light and stuff like that, and false reincarnation cycle, people's focus on that they don't want this is actually beginning to change it everywhere else.
And that's why this conversation is so important.
Yes.
Because if you can actually understand or let it come into your mind the possibility of, I don't even care if you agree. What if the possibility was there? Would you want this to be occurring? To me, that's all you need to know.
Yes.
And so for you to say no.
You don't always need to know the nitty gritty.
You don't need to know the nitty gritty. Just on the surface, would you want something like that occurring? If you can just, again, listen to some of it and say, absolutely not. That's the energies you're talking about that will force the change overall. Basically saying, I don't want this type of experience. Whether it's happening now or not, the answer is no. You know what I mean? It can't happen, or if it's happening, it needs to stop. However you want to phrase it. And then understanding that the possibility is there and saying no to it is very, very, very meaningful. I find it interesting because I do think some of the energies were beginning to lessen. And then here came two great storms. I felt, you know what I mean? The Les were saying the weather modification to throw people in home, to have a colder winter than we're ever. My entire lifetime here, and I've lived here, I've never seen this
Right.
consistent like it has been, which will basically drive people insane because now you're housebound, which will financially hurt because your heating bill is going to be through the roof, and water bill if you're always having to leak your faucets. So, you know, again, what was being said earlier about doing everything to drain everybody into
Of resources.
resources is actually, I hate it, I agree, is being done.
It's a bleeding and a bloodletting that is going on right
Right.
now of resources. This is something that cannot be allowed. And don't always reiterate that these times are hard. Don't keep putting reinforcement towards this. He has heard across the board. He has seen this pattern. Do not keep saying these times are hard. You will constantly reiterate that. And also this goes in line with retrogrades and things like that. Oh, it's another Mercury retrograde. It's going to be a rough one. Don't do that. If we could say anything about this, do not add to both the confusion and do not add to the ill energies by keep insisting that times are hard. You don't want them to bleed you dry. They bleed you dry through your own self-farmed words. Do not do this. Oh, these times are hard. Yes. But why do they have to be? Why do they have to be not recognize what they are? As it's a soul trap. It's a snare. It's a contract, folks. Do not sign it. This is I know that's more of a grotesque way of saying it, but if that gets through to anybody, those words, these times are hard, are considered to be a conflicting agenda, but for everyone.
Again, and we can recognize the current present moment, but you don't want to be stuck there.
No.
And and it's recognizing some of these patterns and what we say of the domination control, and that consider these things are done to do that. Then again, it allows you the opportunity to say no. And, you know, as the group over here to the left is being constantly reminded, you know, soon in your lifetime, your number is up. And so it's like a friendly, not fact, it's just a friendly fact, you know. So, you know, you can mitigate your problems by choosing to go ahead and quit some of it, or you just dig your own grave, literally. So that's just kind of how these things are going to be working themselves out in the next few years. And, you know, and through the whole, as we say, this contractual stuff has to come into fruition, you know, by the mid 2050s. And so just know that. The one area, again, that Chris and I really have been about, again, is that humans, again, as we talk about these things, that we have long memories, and it gets built into our genetics. So again, for those races that are out there that are participating, believe me, when we know it's happening and you guys can't really just sit there and claim all this benevolence when now it is really causing so much harm. And we have long memories, which is another reason why I think the courts are taking notice, because they're realizing, wait a minute, the game is up. They actually know we exist and they know about these contracts and they know that we're a participant. And what does that mean if we do not capitulate to some of this right now? Because the game isn't hidden anymore.
And these are being used as loopholes. You hear Audrey talking about loophole laws and things like this. These are being used, like these RICO type cases, like what he saw in the courtroom there, like his Dark Knight scenario with all the mobsters. That type of thing is being used, and the weird nicknames him and Naito come up with are quite hilarious. I might add, like the Bedbug faction and all this other stuff. They're rolling when these new nicknames come. The new one was Nanopricks. That's another one. But with that, sounds more like a biker gang. But in this, doing these things are quite important. He sometimes scoffs at certain sessions that don't seem to give back. Well, here's the giving back part. Even though this unfortunately involves the whole cheese concept, the giving back part is both the branch treaty and the bracketries and also some of these loophole laws are starting to fluctuate. Yes, there is a prime directive in place, but that, like in your Star Trek, that's for worlds or planets that and civilization that have not actually had formal contact. Earth has had formal contact for quite some time. The Galactic Federation doesn't always recognize this because it's a new generation that doesn't know about these things. So they considered it a resetting the clock, so therefore they could not interfere. I fully fervently disagree with their assessment that you have to use the totality of the history, not just recent years, from the time of the 100 years disclosure narrative starting and whatnot. So there's been continuous contact. Even though most of it is your own people, there's been contact, real bona fide ET and dimensional contact, or you call them ultra-dimensional. So from other timelines, time frames, all of it. So they considered that more human contact. Even the Orions were considered to be human. So
I think the accidental contact, because I've had what I would call the more of the accidental contact, but it's still contact. It's still, then I know, you know what I mean?
Yes, and people are beginning to know and decode and encode, as he says. So yes, even with life forms that modern humans have not seen before, there are it is still getting encoded in the memory of people here. To me, humanity has already been interfered upon. It's only a matter of degree and how long are you going to wait, and how long are you going to wait to put all of this out there. Yes, he always says, be the wildebeest across the stream. Well, we saw what happened when only one did this, and that's Isaac. So that he woke up a lot of races doing this. It takes a symbol, sometimes a martyr like this, but this is something people are still talking about. So when someone is the wildebeest across the stream, either legally out there and they just keep getting busted. That one those don't seem to have the impact. But when you do a big like RICO-ish case where it's a bunch of factions that get stripped of their contracts all at once, that's looked at. And when somebody dies in the name of a cause, that is really looked at. So this is something that is, I can tell you, that is shifting, like what I said was shifting the year before, but is going to change the way people even see people around them. And also the concept of NPC, or non-playable character, as Odin was talking about at your Cosmic Contact conference, where there was no such thing as this, other than the fact that that was just a more mind-controlled person than yourself. And so you are noticing these things. Everyone on Earth is targeted with some nanobug or what have you, from both chemical, psionic, all of that. But you're actually, and they say awake and asleep, but you're actually just seeing all of the people still wired into the whole matrix thing. It only takes a few to light the fires of information, and you're going to start to see those types of NPC instances start to diminish. I use the terminology because this is what people understand. They would say non-playable character, where you're just seeing like a merchant or something that's in a video game or something. even though that's more of a rude assessment, essentially the analogy still stands.
True, and I think that with current events that have played out, especially recently, again, no one should give 100% of what's been delivered out there to the public as being 100% factual truth. However, there's enough of a brush stroke that gives some factual ways of beings about people in power and a religious ideation that they have that requires sacrifice. No different than what the Mayans did, right?
Mhm.
So if you look back.
Sacrifice to the Draco, also the Peruvian Inca, to your Merope, with the
Right.
statue. And he always jokes and says he's the god of the underworld, ushering people to the underworld right next to the fine china and the human bones. That's essentially what was happening. And still to this day, it hasn't stopped.
And that's important because if people look back historically, those type of belief systems that require literal sacrifice, literal torture, literal agreements to do different things, all of these things have been throughout humanity. Now, they may try to cover it up and hide it, or they may try to place it in right smack dab in the middle of something that is thought of being benevolent.
Yes.
That's the sad part. The sad part is when it's smack dab placed into something benevolent, because then it really mind warps people.
Yeah.
Which
Fusing it with something positive so people accept it more, like the whole cannibal thing that came up, the child molestation, all of it. Coupling it with things that seem more acceptable, like your NAMBLA man-boy love group saying, "Oh, they're getting disenfranchised." Good, but I'm just saying that making it more palpable and palatable, and nor should it be palatable ever.
Nor do you think in your mind it could be, because if you have certain belief system into, like, let's just say a savior type figure, then and you believe that benevolent savior type figure can beat everything, then it is absolutely not allowed in your own mindset that some of this very dark area can be within that same let's just say religious structure, because in your mind the benevolence of the one that you think is running it all is not going to allow it, so it can't occur. Again, this is taught, not just in that structure, but in other structures. It's taught to get regular people to feel these ways so that you don't look at the underbelly, so that you refuse, you just accept that it cannot be. And so this is actually very high level psychological, warfare that's done on people. So it becomes too hard for them to believe. And so, again, I believe what we were saying earlier is that you just kind of look at the context of people's character. What you want is, again, decency and, treating people, like you would like to be treated, kind of simple stuff. And, trying to form, truly organic unities where there's a fundamental belief, but you can let people have other beliefs that are not nasty and evil. But, and then you have to be able to look at some of these things and say, maybe there is a nasty underbelly to some of this, and I have to really open my mind. And you don't have to open it much. All you really have to do is say, if there's even a remote possibility that it's there, I don't want it there. Mm-hmm. That's not what I want. That's all you actually need to do energetically.
In order to fix and change this world, you must look at that dark underbelly. Mm-hmm. And you must look at your inner shadows as well, because that's also where the truth lies. But with that said, it will bear fruit in positive ways once that is not being used against people. It's one of those as above, so as below. Sometimes things can be egregores and tulpas from this. Other times it can be being imprinted on you from ages and the ancient past. What changes all this is the look within, and also the look outwardly to its reflections, but also and its mirrorings, but also towards the continuation of these dark things. Any of these things in all dark corners of the world must have a light shined on them.
Exactly. So, any final conversation you want to have for tonight's show?
Yes. Again, I will reiterate the age of discernment. is a wonderful concept. I must also detach from him because the itchiness this hood is causing is actually, I can feel his. If he didn't feel necessary to be dressed like the Grand Inquisitor, I probably would not. But I understand the reasoning for the hood. The silver is doing a wonderful thing, and this can be felt, but he has an allergy to woven silver, so it is causing him to itch. And I can feel this on my end. So I would not recommend full body clothes for him, or this will not end well. The solid silver, given long enough, his skin would turn black. He's also allergic to copper, and it would turn green. So, with that said, I will detach now. So, thank you, everybody. Good night. Yeah, I can actually feel this. Yeah, under here, I've noticed when the energy starts to go up, other than this is prolonged contact, I can feel the hair follicles really itching under here. Yeah, she made the joke saying I was dressed like the Grand Inquisitor, meaning like the from the Spanish Inquisition kind of thing. There's this Monty Python skit where they're wearing red ones like this, and it's the Grand Inquisitor. Yeah, so I always found that funny. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. That's the joke she was making. But anyway, like the medieval hood. Others came, like Nigel came around and said, "Would you like a leg of mutton English?" You know, because of the monk and everything. So I've heard a variety of jokes, even from clients with this. So yes, I'm just saying that it protects, but there comes a time where you got to take it off. As I noticed, I started getting these weird, like along the edges of the eyelid here, there were like this red that started to form around my eyes. And my eyes started to blur. I'm going, woo, this is an allergy of some kind. And yeah, it's the woven silver. So I can't have it on 24/7, but my hat doesn't seem to do that, except it's scalp. So just there's nothing wrong with the product. It's me. It's not you, it's me product. So I'm just saying that, just so I'm not dumping on it.
We should mark that here, because many times they'll say it's you, not me.
But in this instance, it's towards an object. So, and the creators thereof. It's not you, it's me. So, and my apparently my genetics. So, and allergies. So it's probably an entanglement that's causing that too. I'll have to look into that. Some are caused by that, but some are just there. I've noticed that somebody gained a cat allergy one time and was able to look at entanglements and look in their energy, switch around, and they weren't allergic to cats anymore. Who knows? So it could, the shadow work sometimes can reveal that or fix it. Reveal whether you need a medicine or not, or whether you need an allergy something or not. Two, the people forget it doesn't mean that it takes away the thing. It could reveal a source that could take away the thing too. No, like something a doctor can give or what have you. But that's, I've noticed that time and again, it could reveal a circumstantial source versus that of changing it bodily as well. So, Joanne, do you have anything else to add?
No, hope everybody thought this was interesting.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for liking and subscribing to this video. Please check out the new YouTube that the Lifting Archive is on currently, at The Lifting Presents. And also go to at Galactic Interversal Consortium as well to look for those YouTubes. You'll see that Bjorn has done a fantastic job on all the graphics work on there. And catch me Friday nights on Trifold Paranormal on the live stream. So I now close this circle with in true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. And I should have read this first, excuse me. I did it again, folks. Affirmation and blessing. To have knowledge is vastly different and is even dwarfed by knowing what it is to have wisdom. Wisdom first, then one can dissect knowledge with unbiased vision. Channeling of actor and the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. I actually liked that one. So I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Oh, I do want to point out, in addition to what we said about the Cabal gets you on vices, we brought that up in the lifting and GIC. They do it through tech a lot of times, porn, any of those things, but also drugs, also these things as well. People forget an old reference back in the 90s, William Shatner's Tech War, tech being used. It was called Tech, and the character of Cardigan gets addicted to Tech, and he goes to jail. And Tech becomes more dangerous later on, like it causes some reaction in the brain that cascades in the brain, and it's like crack. They made it originally for fantasies and stuff like that, but it became a drug. So essentially like a drug. But at any rate, later on, there was an actor by the name of Von Flores that played Sonny Ukori. Earth Final Conflict, he played Sandoval. There was an actor, I can't remember his name, tall black man, but he played a character named Sid in Tech War. He was also in Earth Final Conflict as a local mayor who was a not test subject, but on public television. He got on, and there was this device that would pick a memory out of his head like Tech. Roddenberry had it right too, so did Shatner. Also Star Trek, Roddenberry. You see the correlation? Well, anyway, it picked a memory out of his head where he had been with a 15-year-old girl, and he lied to the public and said it was for a baseball game. And that Sandoval eventually relayed to him later. They recorded it, and we're going to use it against him. If you're not squeaky clean, they'll come after you and use vices against you, like what they did with Russell Brand, or what happened with Michael Jackson, or any of these things. So that was all correlated. Roddenberry had it, Shatner had it, all right in front of you. Tech War is an old reference from the early 90s, and eventually they got into Earth Final Conflict in the late 90s, early 2000s. So the actor played Sid, and also the actor played Sonny Ukori. Then Von Flores went to Sandoval, and Shatner was with Star Trek that Roddenberry also wrote Earth Final Conflict. You see how it's all one big happy family, telling you what's going on. So I just wanted to point that out. Put this on Q&A at some point. So it is 12:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Thank you.